All right. Well, so we just had this great first night of the All In Revival. We got Pastor Washington here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Introduce yourself.
Man, so I'm Noah Washington from Washington, D.C., Northeast D.C. And, man, what else you want to know?
Yeah, well,
been married for 18 years.
Oh, okay.
Have a 15-year-old son and a 9-year-old daughter. Noah Alexander and June McKenzie. Nice. And love them. Yeah. Awesome. And that's about it. Went to Oakwood University.
Okay.
College. When I was there, it was college. And that's about it.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So we got this All In Revival. We just heard the first sermon talking about how God so loved the world. You know. I grew up feeling so much that God only loved me when I did lovable things. Mm-hmm. And the moment I stopped doing that, then He didn't love me no more. Right? Mm-hmm. And so, when I really started digging in myself and reading and just experiencing Him, I said, man, that ain't what the Bible teaches, right? And I think for so long we have told and taught people that God's love is based on whatever. Something.
Based on something that's earned. And that ain't the gospel. And so I feel like it's the gospel that changes people's lives. Mm-hmm. When you tell people that you need to perform or behave better, it's short-lived. Mm-hmm. We have revivals in churches and stuff, and people get on fire for God because of the sermons, because of the music, because of whatever. And then when revival is over, so is their, on fireness with God, because behavior modification is never a growth point for you to grow your relationship with the Lord. It's short-lived. Case in point, when 9/11 happened, those 3 months were like marked by things. So if y'all remember, first in August, hip hop entertainer Aaliyah died that year.
I remember.
And then it was 9/11. Something happened in October that year too. Somebody died. I can't remember. But it was like a string of stuff. And I remember, man, prayer meeting at church was packed. People I didn't even know knew God was in prayer.
Looking for God then.
Yeah, and I was just like, but then 6 months, you started seeing empty seats again. 9 months, 10 months, it started going back to normal. So it's like, I don't feel like God ever wanted our relationship with Him to be event driven. Right. When something happens, bam, and then and so I think what sustains that is really just coming into a love relationship. And I think for me, being married and being a father has taught and is teaching me so much about God, because it's like, if my kids do stuff that I don't like, which they do all the time, I don't stop loving them just because of that. You know what I'm saying? I remember one time my kids were doing something, and they was just acting up. And I was about to go ham on them, right? I was about to go in.
Cracking it up.
Yeah, and so immediately God was like, why are you about to discipline them for the same thing I gave you grace for? Okay. Right? And so I was like, all right, just go out. So it's like, I think being a parent, it teaches you so much about how God looks at you. You don't take your kids to social service and say, I don't want to be their parent anymore if they get bad grades or if they misbehave or if they do whatever. You don't do that. Why? Because you love them. But somehow over the years, man, we have just embodied this perspective that you have to be so good that it equals the level of God's grace. But we can never out behave His grace.
Right. I guess that's a question that I had. You spoke in the sermon about you may never hear from Beyonce or Barack Obama, but
he waved at me before. He waved. At least I think it was.
It's more than
most people. We don't go with it.
But like,
how does the world's, I guess, view of creating your self-esteem differ from the self-esteem we get through God?
So we have to allow God to inform us of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
I think when we see God, and this is my imagination, because who knows what we're really going to do once we see him. I think we'll be just in such awe. But I think one of the things that's going to happen in eternity is I'm going to sit down with him and say, okay, I've got to know this. What were your plans and thoughts when you first thought about creating me? What was that? Right. What was that picture? Yeah. And then what did I, I think God's plans for us are so supernaturally amazing, just almost otherworldly, that it would shock and stun us, right, to find out. And I think we have settled for peanuts, if I can use that term, when he has, you know what I mean? I think too, comparison is the death of progress. Okay. So we'll compare ourselves to other people and say, man, I need to do this. My wife and I were talking the other day. It's like the it thing now is to put out a book. Everybody got a book. 20 steps to make a better peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Everybody trying to put it. So you feel like you got to compete and you got to do. And if you don't, then you feel less than and not equal to. And so it's like, man, how do you allow God to inform who you are and who he's called you to be, right, and stop always, because like, man, we can just be running after and chasing after, I gotta do this. Oh, okay, now I gotta do it. And they can be exhausting.
And you know what? That goes into what you were saying earlier in this sermon where you were like, we gotta stop trying to live.
Oh my God.
Those claps.
That is, it's exhausting.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I not totally off, but I don't really be on Facebook as much anymore.
I'm not.
Because if I can quote Steve Harvey, who said, man, the internet has become a place for evil to dwell. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, sometimes you go in there and people just complaining about any and everything, or, social media is so crazy because social media puts out a caricature of ourselves that we want people to fall in love with. Yeah. So we only put our best self.
Put our best foot forward.
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And so, if we don't get enough likes or people don't comment on our thing, and it's just like
it's too much.
It's too much.
It's unnecessary.
Is that a human nature thing where we want to be? We're looking for love and we want to be liked. We want the most people to say.
So I'm gonna say this. I just came up on this. I could be wrong. I think the church's greatest problem, some people say, the church's greatest issue is having kids out of wedlock, or the church's greatest issue is how people dress, or the church's greatest issue is the music, or whatever the case may be. I think everything boils down to a misunderstanding of God's love. Mm. I really do. Adam and Eve were banished from the garden because they misunderstood God's love. Oh. And wow. There's so many people that say, and I don't know if I'm preaching on this week, so if it is, y'all just get it again.
All right.
So many people say Adam and Eve got kicked out of the Garden of Eden because God was testing them, right? And they failed the test. You've heard that before. He was testing them. Well, in a perfect world, who needs to be tested? You're only tested on something because there's a probability you won't know something, right? But the reason why the tree of knowledge of good and evil was there along with the tree of life is because true love allows a person to have options. Right. If I make you love me, that's not love, that's rape.
Okay.
Right? So there had to be another option in the garden that allowed Adam and Eve to pick something other than to choose God. Right. Because he loved them, right? And so I just think they got a misunderstanding based on temptation of the devil, a misunderstanding of God's love. And I think that's what we've been really fighting for. And that's one of the things the enemy has worked hard at, helping us to misunderstand the real love of God. I think that's what changes people's lives. It's not when they hear doctrines that they've never heard before,
or some little, biblical thing that may sound. It's, man, the love of God, I really believe, radically changes people's lives. And if you don't understand the love of God, then I think you are misinformed on everything else the Bible teaches.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because most of the love that the first love that you have or you remember is what you base even God's love on. Sometimes.
No question. And most of our love, I think what we think a lot of our love has been is not love, but it's feelings.
Right.
You
It's
know,
an emotion.
And then especially with these love reality shows, that's probably a whole other show that we can talk about. We can talk a whole segment on
Like
that.
they said, love is a word that comes and goes, but few people really know what it means.
Yes.
Say it.
Yes.
I like how you mentioned, you talked about how when you reread John 3:16,
Oh yeah.
it made you weep because you saw how deep it was.
Yeah, man. I was just
The love
like,
really is.
because my thing is, man, I don't bring nothing to the table for God to love me. It's not like, God is not like, man, Noah, he's a dope guy, man. So I don't bring nothing to the table.
Right.
And I started thinking one day, man, what makes him love me so much? And his love for me was before I ever started doing one thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But we usually only love people after they do stuff. And when they stop doing that stuff, then we're like, nah, we good. You know what I'm saying? You know,
It's a show me love.
it's a show me love.
Yes.
It's a show me love. Yeah.
But just real quick too. Let's can we go back to the three things you said? Fully known by God,
Fully known,
by
fully
God,
loved, and fully
fully
chosen.
chosen. Yeah.
I like
Can you kind of just give us a little summarization of how we, for those out there, and and this is for young people, but how do you know that you're chosen? How do you, when you don't feel chosen, how can you understand that you are chosen by God?
So, Bible says in Luke 1 that no word from God ever fails, right? So, he said, Jeremiah, I knew you before you were formed.
Yeah.
And not only did I know you, but I had a plan for you, right? So, it's not like God said, I knew you, but I ain't got nothing for you to do.
Right.
No, I knew you, and I had a plan for your life. So, God is no respecter of persons. Jeremiah is not the only one that he knew before it was formed, and there was a plan for their life. So, how do you know? Because he told me.
Right.
He told me that there's a plan. I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, give you an expected end. So that I know I'm not just here taking up space, but there's something that I could to really talk about this concept for a long time. I know we're wrapping up, but to know I'm not just here taking up space, but there's something I'm actually supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You got
Absolutely.
Isn't that something like God gave us all a purpose? And it's not necessarily the same. It's
No,
the same.
anything God created, he did so with purpose.
Absolutely.
I have no question.
Deep, yeah. And I one more like a light question. I noticed you say that you had the you like to go to the mall and shop. What's your shoe collection looking like?
Ah.
I got a bad habit, y'all. And it's funny, man. You grow up a certain way and not having, and so you want stuff, so you get a little change in your pocket and stuff. So I probably became a quasi sneakerhead maybe like 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
And then when my son hit his preteen and teenage years, I guess he turned into me, man. So every chance we get, every single store we be in the mall, we just look at shoes and look at it. So how's it looking? I got a new pair on now, actually. My wife.
Okay.
No, but only because my wife and daughter got these for me for my birthday. My birthday was on Friday, so she knows I'm a sneakerhead. So they pull these in. So that's the only reason I got these. But appreciate it. You know what I mean? So I got a bad habit, man. I'm trying. Lord's trying to break that addiction from me. But we just I don't know, man.
Yeah, we're gonna pray for you, Pastor. You may I don't know. He may be calling you to give him away to somebody. Anyway,
you know what? I'm gonna say this before we go, man. God put this thing. Every time I get something, I try to give something else away.
Amen.
So I'm actually about to give a pair away.
Awesome, man.
I
That's
am.
good. That's
I
awesome.
am.
No.
Not these, but these
Okay.
are comfortable. Yeah,
I
but
thought you
I'm giving a pair away.
See,
I just gave a pair away a couple months ago.
Oh,
So-
So that's good.
stay
Yeah.
tuned for the giveaway.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well,
Not
I just
these,
want to thank you so much. I thoroughly
Bless you.
enjoyed the
Amen.
message tonight,
Bless
and
you
I'm
so
looking
much.
forward for the rest of
Amen.
the revival.
Bless you.
Amen.
Bless you.
It's awesome work, Pastor. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming. And we look forward to seeing you again. When we have it our
Tomorrow
next
night.
Tomorrow
night.
night,
We'll be back
7 o'clock.
tomorrow night. Doc Griffin will be here with you guys tomorrow night talking about his message. I don't know if he wants me to give it away, but spoiler alert, the message is called The Comeback.
That
Come
works.
back.
So y'all need to come out and get this word. I promise you it's going to bless you. Just take a little time out of your evening. And God has always been known to renew our time back that we spend in his presence. So
And that's every day except Tuesday and
except
Thursday.
Tuesday, Thursday. So we here tonight, tomorrow, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday morning and evening.
At
Yeah.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. Yeah.
All right.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Pastor. We look forward to
Absolutely.
seeing you again.
Thank
soon.
you.
Definitely.
We look forward to
Absolutely.
seeing y'all again too.
No
All right.
question.
All right.